Good afternoon, everyone. This is Marie Sullivan. It's 4 p.m. on Tuesday, October 13, 2020. And at this time, I'd like to call to order the Maricopa Community Colleges District Governing Board work session. There's one item on the agenda for the work session today, and that is a discussion of our compensation philosophy. Before we go any further, though, I'd like to call roll for board members for the record. And with that, I'll start by calling for Ms. Munoz, our student advisory trustee, if she's present. I don't hear any affirmation from her, or comment from her. So let's move on to Mr. Hendricks, present or not?
Present.
Thank you. Mrs. McGrath. Mrs. McGrath, are you present? Thank you.
I'm present.
Perfect. Glad you are. Dr. Narini?
Present.
Mr. Sarr?
I'm here.
Dr. Thor?
Here.
Ms. Nguyen?
Present.
And with my presence, we have a full quorum of the board, 7-0. With that, I'm going to move us to the discussion on compensation philosophy. And with that, I'll move this first to you, Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, President Sullivan, members of the board, CEC, and guests that are with us this late afternoon. As you all know, compensation philosophy has been a topic at various board meetings and various meetings to our district, and we're here to present through a work session a collaborative effort in what has been developed as a compensation philosophy. And this would provide an opportunity for our board members to engage and ask questions and provide feedback into this as we continue to move this forward, hopefully towards adoption in a future meeting. With that said, you're likely to hear from several members of Human Resource Department, which would include Michelle Keller, Dr. Frank Wilson, Martha Anderson, Dr. Georgetta Kelly, and perhaps even from Dr. Jim Moore, our Chief Operating Officer, who are all available to answer any questions that you may have this afternoon. So with that said, I will turn it over to Dr. Kelly, and I'm sure that she will introduce who will take it from here.
Thank you so much, Chancellor. Good afternoon, President Sullivan, members of the board, CEC members and guests. As the Chancellor mentioned, I do have several members of the HR team here today, starting with Martha Anderson, the Associate Chief Human Resources Officer. Also, Dr. Frank Wilson, Interim District Director, Human Resources, and Michelle Keller, our Director of Compensation for the district. For today's presentation, Frank Wilson will be leading the presentation, and then will be available to respond to any questions that the board members may have. Thank you. And Frank?
Thank you.
Okay, I was having technical difficulties and I just arrived to this session. And so I missed everything that was said. Was there an introduction given and we're ready to start the presentation?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much. President Sullivan, members of the board, Chancellor Gonzalez, members of CEC, colleagues and guests. My name is Frank Wilson and I'm the Interim District Director of Human Resources. Presenting with me today is my colleague, Michelle Keller, who's our Director of Compensation. So today we're going to be talking about valuing employees through compensation. Next slide. This is a difficult time for a difficult conversation. And you may be thinking, now is not the time to talk about employee compensation. But now more than ever, it's essential we have this conversation. And here's why. Next slide. We play a key role in the economic health of Maricopa County. And during this time of an economic downturn, we contribute to the recovery by reskilling displaced workers and preparing students for this evolving workplace. To do this, we must attract and retain the highest quality of faculty and staff. But in order for us to retain the highest quality of faculty and staff, we must remain market competitive. and we must continue to value our people by rewarding engagement, because engaged employees are central to the student's experience and to student success. Next slide. We are presently working with compensation consultant Mercer to help us understand what we can do to improve our compensation structures and our policies. As a part of that work, we recently held multiple focus groups with employees at all levels of the organization to get a sense in terms of what's working and what's not working in terms of our policies and practices. And as a part of that process, we received this representative feedback from employees. Our employees are looking for compensation that's reflective of the market and allows people to feel valued by the institution. Our employees want a just, fair compensation policy that includes salary progression appropriate for each employee group. They're looking for a fair pay for employees and a way to ensure fair pay increases over time. And they recognize that the compensation plan must be clear and sustainable, and one in which we can maintain integrity and consistency. Next slide. As a part of the work with Mercer and working with these focus groups, Mercer presented a variety of statements and asked for employee input on that. And these are very telling in terms of where we are right now. In regards to the statement, MCCD has an appropriate and consistent process for advancing the pay of employees. 97% of non-executives disagreed or strongly disagreed, and 87% of executives disagreed or strongly disagreed. When posed with the statement, I am satisfied with Maricopa's career advancement process and policies, 91% of non-executives disagreed or strongly disagreed, and 81% of executives disagreed or strongly disagreed. There's strong consensus across the organization that our compensation policies and practices need much work in order to be able to achieve the objectives. Next slide. We also have experienced over time that cost of living allowances have not kept pace with inflation. And so you see here on this slide the cumulative COLAs that employees have received, and also the consumer price index, and then the gap there. So we're about 9.31 percentage points behind where the consumer price index has gone over that same time period. Next slide. So as you may recall, this board, the governing board, gave a directive to us recognizing the challenges we were having in the space of our compensation philosophy, and we were charged with developing a fair and equitable compensation philosophy for the governing board to review, and we have done that. And over the next few slides, we'll tell you our process by which we use to achieve this. Next slide. Our process included evaluating compensation philosophies at 45 institutions. Many institutions have compensation philosophies, most do. In fact, we're behind by not having a well-developed compensation philosophy. But a part of our process was reviewing those philosophies and also reviewing best practices as published in the compensation handbook. One thing that's very significant here from the compensation handbook is the role that compensation plays in terms of the overall mission of an organization, because it affects 4 key areas: recruitment, retention, performance, and employee engagement. And if we have a well-developed compensation program, we'll be able to address each of those 4 key areas. Our compensation philosophy also helps us gain an understanding of the people and our organizational drivers, and provides both short-term and long-term perspective. Next slide. We did not develop the compensation philosophy in isolation. Engaging key stakeholders was central to our work. And so we engaged with the Employee Senate, the Faculty Executive Council, the Faculty Administration Collaboration Team, Compensation Advisory Committee, and Chancellor's Executive Council as a part of this process. Next slide. And at this time, I'll turn the time over to my colleague, Michelle Keller, who will provide the highlights of the compensation philosophy. Michelle?
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle. Very happy to be here. Talk a little bit about compensation philosophy. It's our position statement of the district regarding pay and is the framework for developing the pay strategies to meet business and employee needs. Now, Frank had mentioned in an earlier slide that there was much work that needs to be done, and the compensation philosophy is the beginning of that work. It lays the framework for developing the compensation rewards and programs and opportunities that we need to provide our employees. The compensation philosophy is at the heart and soul of an overall talent philosophy that Frank had mentioned earlier. It serves to inform and communicate the district's commitment to employees through compensation, rewards, and opportunities. We think that type of transparency and commitment helps to build a trust bond with our employees through the culture of openness. And as he had mentioned in earlier slides, the employee responses to the Mercer studies also gives an indication that there is a lack of trust with our compensation program. So the compensation program driver is that we need to acknowledge that employees are our most important resource in driving business success and the success of the community and the success of our students. A comprehensive philosophy plays a role in addressing employee satisfaction. The fairness and transparency of the compensation philosophy can increase retention rates of employees as a goal. By sharing and publishing the district's compensation philosophy, we also demonstrate transparency and can attract more talent and skilled job applicants whose needs and values align with our philosophy that goes with the concept of attracting, retaining, and motivating employees. Those employees who feel appreciated and valued are motivated to do their best work and increase contributions. For those reasons, the compensation philosophy is a bedrock for rewarding our talent to achieve. But the 5 main goals of our compensation philosophy, as you see on the screen, is to build a talent philosophy of an engaged and talented workforce by creating career mobility programs and opportunities like organic promotions, career paths, and charts for advancement and dual career tracks. Secondly, ensuring our programs are fiscally sensitive and ensure sound stewardship of available resources. And third, we maintain a compensation model that values and supports our pillars of care within a total compensation model, which aligns to market trends, responding to external economic and business influences, and recognizes innovative practices. 4, we want to uphold fair and equitable pay practices. Compensation can be perceived as fair if it's comprised of a system of components developed to maintain internal and external equity. And lastly, value individual and organizational achievements in maintaining a high-performing culture. Next slide, please. Great.
Thank you. So the ask is for the governing board to approve the compensation philosophy for adoption at the October 27th, 2020 governing board meeting. Next slide. We've taken some proactive actions to help move forward in addressing the issues that exist with our existing compensation systems. We've engaged experts to help us develop a fair, clear pay policy. And as I referenced earlier, we're working with Mercer, who's providing a critical review of our pay policies and practices. and recommending best practices for us to integrate into our pay systems. We're engaging with employees to finding solutions to our compensation challenges. This includes the Compensation Advisory Committee, which was formed in February of 2020. This includes representatives from across the organizations who are looking at the challenges that we have and brainstorming ideas and solutions to help us address those issues. We also have engaged with key stakeholders in participating in the Mercer focus groups. We had over 130 participants participate in those focus groups. We have also reinstituted the reclassification program. This allows employees who believe that the job they're in doesn't represent the work they're doing and that there might be a different job classification that's more representative of the work they're actually doing. They can request to be reclassified. And so that program's functioning. As part of our efforts to clean up our salary systems, we've identified a single formula for faculty pay. We're moving forward in cleaning that up. Next slide. We also have developed a compensation change tool, which is embedded within HCM, which allows us to do large-scale compensation changes in an automated kind of way. And this will reduce errors and help us be more efficient and effective in implementing any compensation changes that are approved. We are also prepared to align employee salaries with the market. We did a market salary study with our consultant Evergreen Solutions back in 2018-19 for the faculty. And those recommendations have come forward and are awaiting approval and implementation. The staff market salary study by Mercer is underway, and we expect to have the results of that salary study by early 2021. We've also are preparing to refine the staff job classification structure. And Mercer is looking at our overall structure and identifying areas for us to improve, enhancements we can make. This is not an overhaul of the existing structure. This is a refinement of the structure to ensure that we're offering the right jobs in the right job series and the right job families. Once the compensation philosophy is approved, then we'll be able to move forward with these proactive steps and actually move forward towards implementation. Next slide. That concludes our presentation on the compensation philosophy. And at this time, I'll entertain any questions that the members of the board may have.
Ms. Wilson, before we move into questions, the board, I don't have background noise in my house right now. I'm hearing some. Is that coming out of my computer? Okay. Anyway, I just thought I'd ask that question. It's all calm now. With that, Mr. Wilson, I don't want to be obtuse. When we're talking about the compensation philosophy, referring back to slide 10, and those are a broad sort of mission, and then you have 5 goals. But what I'm unclear on is you're developing a philosophy. Has more depth been given to what exactly you're saying in that compensation philosophy? Okay.
So President Sullivan, I'm understanding the question to be, is the compensation philosophy, does it have more depth than what we see here on slide 10? Is that the question?
Essentially, yes.
Yes. In the packet from the board should be the complete compensation philosophy. What we have here are just the highlights. So there's a full page document that I believe was included in the packet provided to the board, which identifies these 5 goals and specific steps we'll take to accomplish these goals, and also a discussion of non-monetary rewards.
I looked at all my board material today, and frankly, I couldn't find that. I just saw this. So if any of the other board members were more successful, and I didn't pursue it any further than my perusal this morning and then early this afternoon. So I apologize for asking that question if others have found that. So moving on then, I'll just do our normal practice of going through the board list for comments and questions, and then we can engage in further dialogue. So I'll start with you, Ms. Nguyen.
Thank you for the presentation. I do have a couple questions, and I did not find anything more than this compensation philosophy either, Mrs. Sullivan. So I looked at the same things you did. Didn't have any success in finding anything beyond what this presentation was.
So then before we go on, maybe I should ask, are we looking in the wrong place? Someone who can tell us?
That was
Mrs.
emailed.
Go ahead, Ms. Macias.
That was emailed in the How to Connect email.
Huh, okay. All right.
It was a second email.
Yes.
The first one contained the PowerPoint presentation, and then there was a second one with the actual compensation philosophy.
How did I miss that? Okay, well, thank you.
I guess what I'm asking is I see the compensation philosophy that just got presented. Is there one with numbers and more specific, or well, obviously I didn't see it, so I can go back and read it after this. It doesn't change.
There's a full page Word document.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'll go back and double check as well. So with that, that puts me a bit at disadvantage, perhaps you as well, Ms. Nguyen, but please go ahead with your questions
Okay.
and we can move on.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Nguyen.
So one of the things that I know that we started on last year was there were some inequities in pay. So we had certain people, let's say, that would start with the college and they were coming into a job, but people that had worked with us for 26 years would actually be making less than people that were coming in brand new. And I don't know where we are in that process. And I think that could contribute to people not trusting the system if we have not finished that equity in the pay. So I just want to, I don't know if that's really a question so much as a statement, like, but wanting to know where we are in that process. Have we gone through and made it more equitable? The second question to that, or the second part of that, is people are doing, I think I've heard more with less. Like, so people are taking on extra jobs that, and I think you called it reclassifying. How much of that is going on? So it sounds like some of our jobs are morphing, and maybe they should get a higher rate of pay. But how do we track that and assess that? Because one of the things that concerns me with the number of employees that we have is if we just kind of do a blanket policy, there's things that are broken currently in our system that I think we need to fix. We do need to have a compensation philosophy. I don't disagree necessarily with that, but I think that there's some internal things that are still broken that before you kind of put a big Band-Aid on this, that still need to be addressed. So I may have further questions, but those are the concerns that I have just hearing what we've just heard.
Sure.
Mrs. Nguyen. Oh. This is Martha Anderson, the Associate CHRO.
Yes.
So President Sullivan, members of the board, Dr. Gonzalez, members of the CEC, and guests. To answer that question, Mrs. Nguyen, we did look at the inequities. Part of the delay in that was that at the same time, the compensation, the change to the structure of the jobs, as well as moving from step and grade to an open range system, happened at the same time we did the release for R4. And as we know, that was not successful at all and caused a huge amount of problems. And so money that we would have had to take on that challenge there earlier was used to correct the problems with R4 so that we could ensure accurate pay across the system. So when we went back and got funding again, we came to the board to get the funding to look at the equity. What we did was look at those that were not at midpoint. So there were a group of employees that we knew when we moved into this new compensation structure, we would have to go back and look at, because they were simply moved to the bottom of the range as we moved forward. So that was the first group we looked at. At that time, the COO, Elliot Hibbs, also with consent from the colleges, we looked at anyone who was below midpoint at that time to determine whether we could address the equity. We did address equity across the system in that light. We had some conversation with President Sullivan when she was part of the financial committee about the next step, where we needed to look holistically across the system to determine equity and to see how much we needed in order to make right those positions that needed an equity adjustment. And given the COVID and other things that have happened, that just has not been something that we could bring forward to the board in good conscience with public stewardship in mind. So once we get the compensation philosophy in place, we can put a measured approach about how we could do that, being fiscally responsible at the same time.
And President Sullivan and Mrs. Wynn, this is Georgetta Kelly, the Chief Human Resources Officer, and we agree that there are opportunities within the compensation structure for enhancement. Right now, when we introduced the new class and comp several years ago, it was incomplete. And so now we're trying to close that gap and enhance our compensation program across the structure. Putting in place total rewards or a blended approach to compensation makes sense, and it's a best practice method for beginning to set a right foundation for us moving forward. We are also building out a sustainable pay strategy that will look over multiple years. As Martha mentioned, being mindful of good public stewardship and being fiscally responsible. So there is a lot of work here to be done because it is incomplete right now. And that's one of the reasons why we've onboarded Mercer to partner with us to really help us complete some of the initial work with the introduction of the new class and comp model. And Frank, I'm going to have you respond to the reclassification question.
Yes. President Sullivan, Mrs. Wynn, regarding the reclassification question, you are absolutely right that reclassification should be a backup measure only needed when there are rare events where someone doesn't fit in their job in terms of their duties, some evolution there. The challenge we faced is when we moved to the new class and comp system, we cut the number of roles back so far that people found themselves in roles that didn't match exactly the work they were doing. And so now with the support of Mercer, they're looking at all of our classifications, our job families, and saying, you need to make some improvements here. You need to expand here to better accommodate the employees you have and the work they're doing. And so our belief is that with the work of Mercer and the recommendations they'll be bringing forward over the next 5 or 6 months, that we'll be able to make adaptations to our classification structure that will make reclassifications not necessary because we'll be able to fit people into the jobs where they most appropriately fit. So that is the improvement we're making to address the issue in terms of the number of reclassifications we've received.
Do we know how many people we're talking about that this affects currently? Do we have any quantifiable?
Sure.
I'm
sure.
not trying to be difficult. I appreciate that Mercer is going to tell us what is in the workforce and what's current, rate of pay, and I appreciate their role in this. In that they're kind of coming in and trying to untangle what we have, but I'm concerned about how many people does that affect? If we're talking about having an integrity and we're talking about equitable pay and we're talking about the morale, if you look at your own numbers, I would point to that people want to be in a system that's equitable and fair, and they want to be acknowledged and appreciated for the work that they're doing. And I'm still hearing in everything you guys are saying that we're not there to do that. And I think maybe what Mercer is going to do is valuable, but there's still some work we have to do in order to, we can do it with them, I guess, but it sounds like we're still not in a place where we could do that. And
Sure.
so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not getting
So,
it.
so President Sullivan and Mrs. Nguyen, we are totally agreed with you. There's a lot of work for us to do, and we are ready to do that work. We're beginning that work. Mercer is a support to that work and bringing their expertise to the table. But we have our compensation advisory committee that meets as a full committee every month and as subcommittees during the month that is looking at issues, crafting solutions, bringing forward recommendations on how we can improve things. So we are not waiting for Mercer to do all the work. They are a partner in helping us, but we are ready to carry this forward over the next several years to address these issues because they are issues that need to be addressed that have not been addressed in the past. And in terms of the count on the reclassifications, we can get you a count number. I don't have that exact number at the top of my head, but we can get that for you and report it back to the members of the board.
Thank you, Ms. Nguyen. Do you have any further questions? I'll move on. And I want to thank you for that. And I apologize for not having seen that second email. But with that, I have pulled it up now and I'm seeing it. With that, I didn't plan to do this, but given the nature of the questions, I did want to build on the one point of the equity piece. It is correct that when I started on the Finance Committee and met with Mr. Hibbs, we did talk about the equity concerns as they impacted the budget. And it was disappointing to know that we had only gone to equity consideration up to the midpoint for those going below as opposed to those at or above. So I appreciate that that's very much in your conscience to continue to apply the thoughtfulness and the issues around equity to those who also did not fall below that line at the time the initial work was done. So I just wanted to say I appreciate the extra consideration, recognizing that there are some concerns in relationship to how we're going to do budget management at the same time we're integrating this. But I expect if we do it well and with equity in mind, we can move forward to accomplish both. So thank you. So thank you also, Ms. Anderson, for bringing that up again. With that, then I'm going to move to you, Dr. Thor.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. I do have quite a few questions, if you'll bear with me. First, I think the full board and this board member in particular is really delighted to see that we're having a work session on the compensation philosophy and to see a draft of it. It was referenced in slide 7 that there was a board directive in January of 2019 to bring a compensation philosophy to the board by June of 2019. So you're only close to a year and a half late. What took so long?
So,
President Sullivan, this is Martha Anderson again. As part of the board directive back in January of 2019, we were supposed to meet not only with the faculty administration collaborative team that was established, but the classified employee representatives as well. And that group did not get formed much before Dr. Kelly came on board in July, and they were in the forming stage. So we wanted to make sure that we honored the request, that we spoke to all employees, and that the philosophy was created in consultation with them, as well as the other groups that Dr. Wilson indicated that we had reached out to deliver to the board, albeit late, a philosophy that could be supported by all employees across the district.
Thank you. On slide 6, we have the gap in the employee cost of living allowances and how they trail inflation. Not included on this slide is the fact that the board did not grant a COLA for fiscal year 2021. So given that the COLA should have been in the 3% range, what is the gap after this year? Is it more like 12% or even greater than that?
So President Sullivan, Dr. Thor, I understand the question to be, if we were to extend this forward one more year, what would that gap be? Right now it's 9.31. What would that be? My estimation, it would be somewhere in the 11 to 12% range, but we can get that exact, we can do that calculation and report back to you. But my guesstimate would be, it would be in the 11 to 12% range.
Given that the board did not give a COLA for 2021, that is a reality, and we probably ought to be looking at that as well.
Sure.
On slide number 8, you indicated that you evaluated compensation philosophies at 45 institutions. Were these institutions community college districts? And yes, were they as close as one can come to a district comparable to the Maricopa community colleges?
So President Sullivan, Dr. Thor, we did include a variety of institutions, community colleges, as well as universities. Some examples would include Austin Community College, Alamo Community Colleges, Broward County College. Some universities included ASU. We have Houston Community College, Howard Community College, Miami-Dade Community Colleges, Oklahoma City Community Colleges, Northern Virginia Community Colleges. So there was a variety of colleges. Universities included Oregon State University, NAU was included in there. So there was a variety of community colleges as well as universities that were among those 45 institutions.
Okay, thank you. Then on slide 9 and elsewhere, you talk about the Compensation Advisory Committee, and I don't recall hearing about that group before. What types of individuals make up that committee, and how were they chosen?
Sure, President Sullivan and Dr. Thor, the Compensation Advisory Committee is a representative group of employees, and members of that are chosen by the respective groups. So the Faculty Executive Council has 2 representatives, the Employee Senate 2 representatives, each of the VP councils have a representative at the table. The Budget Office has a representative at the table. The Adjunct Faculty Association has a representative. We have some HR directors from the colleges on the committee as well. So, and then we have support from our compensation team at the district office on there, as well as subject matter experts. It's a comprehensive group who engage in dialoguing about the issues and brainstorming solutions.
And were the members selected by their constituent groups?
Yes, the members were selected by their constituent groups. So we identified as a group the charter in terms of what the composition should be, and then each constituent group identified the members they wish to have represent them.
Okay, very good, thank you. You're proposing to bring the compensation philosophy to the governing board on October the 27th. Is this to be board policy? Or is this, what kind of an action is this?
So President Sullivan, Dr. Thor, I'm understanding the question is when we're bringing this forward for approval, what will be the status of this? I will answer to the best of my ability and then invite my colleagues, Dr. Kelly and Mrs. Anderson to weigh in. This will be, with approval of the compensation philosophy, we will see this as our go forward to implement the steps that are laid out in the philosophy and begin to align our practices with the philosophy. So this really is a framework for us that will guide us on our steps forward. Dr. Kelly or Mrs. Anderson, do you want to address what type of action this would be for the board?
Yes, this is Georgetta Kelly, President Sullivan, Dr. Thor. Yes, we would recommend that this compensation philosophy become policy. The FACT group will be presenting an element of the compensation philosophy within their document as well, which solidifies the faculty policy structure. So we definitely would like for this to be policy across the district structure.
Okay, I'll probably leave then for Mr. Saar, as the policy committee chair, to comment on the fact that this should require 2 readings, and also the full page Word document. Again, Mr. Saar may want to comment on whether all of that is appropriate for policy or not. Ms. Keller referenced organic promotion. What is organic promotion?
So President Sullivan, Dr. Thor, the idea of organic promotion speaks to the idea that an employee can grow within their job and advance to a higher level by gaining additional competencies as they grow. So someone might be hired in as a level 1 position, entry-level employee, and maybe over the next 2 years, they develop mastery in a variety of identified competencies, and then they're advanced to a level 2 organically, rather than having to go out and compete through a competitive search process for a level 2 position. So that's the concept of an organic promotion, that you can grow within your role, within the job family. And those details would still need to be developed. Right now, it's just the concept.
Okay, well, that sounds great. So keeping on understanding some of this terminology, that in the actual compensation philosophy, under the five primary goals, number 1 says build and sustain an engaged and talented workforce through progressive career mobility programs. What does that mean?
Sure, President Sullivan and Dr. Thor, the idea of progressive career mobility programs speaks to the idea that our employees over the course of their careers have a career path forward, that they can move from position to position as they gain experience and continue to progress within our organization. Right now, we have a severe limitation in terms of folks trying to progress from non-exempt positions to exempt positions where they lack the needed supervisory experience. So they might want to go to the next level. They don't have any supervisory experience, but they can't get a supervisory position until they have supervisory experience and they feel stuck. So part of this is looking at our overall career paths and really asking ourselves, have we created a way for people to move in such that they can plan out a career with Maricopa and progress over the course of that career in terms of the opportunities that are presented to them?
Okay, so if I'm following, organic promotion is the ability to move within the grade that you have because of the acquisition of additional skills, and progressive career mobility programs is the ability to move to an entirely different grade or even, job family, correct?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a good explanation. And I'll ask Ms. Keller. Ms. Keller, is there anything you'd like to add to that discussion from your perspective as an expert?
So we want to develop the competencies over the next few years for employees to be able to chart out their own career paths and whether they want to stay within their own job family or whether they want to expand out to other job families. So that would be horizontal moves as well as vertical moves in a career mobility program.
Okay, so while I continue to make sure I understand these terms, then in the next section, it says NCCD will accomplish these goals through. So if I go down to the 3rd bullet, modernization, it says working collaboratively to maintain a long-range strategy for compensation includes salary, grade, progression. So again, does that mean salary progression within a grade, or does that mean movement within a range or promotion to a next grade?
So President Sullivan, Dr. Thor, the idea of salary progression within a grade, so each position is assigned a grade, and that grade has a minimum salary and a maximum salary, and individuals are initially placed somewhere within that range. The concept of salary progression within a grade would be someone who's staying in the same job, so not changing positions, but they're able to progress somewhere between the minimum and maximum, so move towards the maximum over the course of their career. So that would speak to salary progression within a grade. That could, part of that could be in terms of gaining additional skills, and then they progress that way. It could also speak to the notion of changing grades, which is typically moving from a level 1 to a level 2 position. That would be changing grades as you move to a higher level position.
Okay, so given that definition, I would like to recommend that instead of using salary grade progression, that you use salary progression within a grade to make it clear what you were talking about. And then while I'm nitpicking words, under non-monetary rewards, the introduction says it's critically important for the district to preserve and motivate its talent. And the definition of preserve is to maintain in its original or existing state. So I would suggest that you might want to consider another word, as we're not about existing state, perhaps retain. And then my last comment is that besides a fair and understandable compensation philosophy or program, it seems to me that we also need predictability. And so I hope that as you continue your work, that you are looking at some way to tie such things as COLAs or steps to a measure. So for example, whether it be inflation or it be the amount of new revenue that the district receives in any one year. Because ideally we should be moving basic decisions about compensation out of the annual budget process and into a more predictable process. And with that, I'm finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thor. And I'm sure as a result of your questions, we all learned a lot more. So thanks. And I appreciate your question about the policy. So moving on to you, Mr. Sarge, your turn, and we have those questions for you as well.
Yeah, I want to thank Dr. Thor for her questions because it took up half of mine. So save some time tonight. But
yeah, she did a solid good service, right?
She did. Regarding the policy, I would recommend that this not become a board policy. I don't want to diminish the importance of it, but we can get into things that we don't need to get into to put this compensation policy in place without making it a policy. And Dr. Thor is right. We wouldn't get this probably finalized until December or January. And I think it's time that we gave our ups and downs on this this month. So I would recommend that we just make this a compensation policy that the board agreed to without making it a formal policy. So that being said, several other questions I do have though. In regard to the time it's taken to get this far, and I really appreciate those that are here today working on this and getting it to us, even though it's almost a couple of years behind when we asked for it. I also am aware, and if I could be wrong, but I think the turnover in our HR staff has been remarkable. And so the different iterations that came into this policy development, here I go, I said that, into this compensation development, and finally coming to where we are today goes to those that stuck it out and gave us this document today. So congratulations to those involved. You had earlier a couple of statistical analyses that talked about our staff and what they think about the current policy and philosophy. Yeah, now got me on the policy, so sorry about that. Has there been questions asked of staff about the importance of benefits as opposed to the amount of the check?
So President Sullivan and Mr. Thor, what you're speaking to is the idea of total compensation, which includes both the paycheck as well as the benefits package. And we can do a better job in that space of communicating to our employees the overall total compensation package that they do receive. We do have a very healthy benefits package for our employees, and we do a good job in that space. So we have talked about providing that information to employees, and I'd ask my colleague, Mrs. Anderson, if she would speak to the work that's been done to prepare the total reward statements for employees in the future.
Thank you, Frank. This is Martha Anderson, Mr. Saar, President Sullivan. Yes, we have sent that request out to employees about benefits. We do that routinely through our EBAC committee, which is our Employee Benefits Advisory Committee that has been in place for a significant amount of time within the district. And we are in the process of preparing a total reward statement that will be able to be released to employees in January for this calendar year to understand what they received and the total compensation that they received from the district. Because as Dr. Wilson indicated, we do have a very rich benefit program for them, and we do want them to be able to see the total package of what working for the district is all about.
Okay, good. If you've known me for the decade I've been on this board, whether it's in the classroom or in a discussion like this, I don't really believe one size fits all. So I'm wondering if you have thought about giving employees at all levels some form of menu that has some flexibility based on the needs and wants and so forth of each individual. It's often called cafeteria plan or something along those lines. And I think you've got some of that already, especially in the healthcare decisions that a staff member has to make. But I would really like to see staff having more options in how they are compensated totally, not just in salary, but in benefits, so that we can meet their needs, as well as obviously meeting the needs of the district. That's a question and a comment, I guess, sorry.
Right.
So President Sullivan and Mr. Thor, right now within our plan, there are a number of options for employees as related to their benefits. They have two different options on medical. They have a core plan or a buy-up plan, and they have 3 dental options, and then multiple options in terms of life insurance, any life insurance they may want to add. So we do seek to provide a variety of options for our employees to take advantage of or not take advantage of. Additionally, we work very closely with our Employee Benefits Advisory Committee related to those options. This is a representative group of employees who really guide the benefits program that we have and what we offer employees, and their input is significant in terms of the things we do. But certainly looking at other options, continually trying to increase the options for our employees to determine what fits their family is something that we do look at.
Yeah, that's why I asked about any comments from our staff regarding the importance of benefits as related to the importance of their net check. Because normally our younger employees have a tighter budget than those that have been around for a while. That's just typical anywhere. I just want to make sure that we're meeting those individual needs with more than just, I get the healthcare thing. We've always had those decisions and options available, but I think there are others as well that I've been involved with, especially recently, that I think we could do more work to make to meet the needs of our individual employees. So that being said, I'll go on, and I want to make sure that I'm understanding. This is a district-wide philosophy, not college by college by college. So anything we have in this document is district-wide, so that we don't end up in the situation that's been talked about earlier, where because of the miscommunication among others, a person is hired in the same job as another college at a different rate that the other college has hired somebody. So I want to make sure that this is a district-wide philosophy.
President Sullivan and Mr. Starr, this is a district-wide philosophy.
Thank you. Thank you. And the other, again, I don't want to downplay the importance of this, because I think it's finally gotten here, and it's at a point in one sheet of paper where you've done an excellent job. So we're kind of nitpicking, but that's what we get paid for. Accountability in evaluation as it relates to compensation. Has there been that kind of discussion?
So, President Sullivan, Mr. Thor, the question, if I'm understanding it correctly, is, are we tying accountability of employees in terms of doing their work with compensation? Is that the question?
Yes.
So certainly our policy manuals speak to expectations for employees and the level of engagement that we expect from our employees. We have not specifically implemented a pay for performance program in terms of having measures, annual measures where they earn additional compensation or do not earn additional compensation based on performance. But we have identified performance expectations within our policy manuals themselves. But that is an area where we can continue to reflect as we look to enhance our system and promote employee engagement. That is an area where we can have further conversation.
And President Sullivan and Mr. Starr, this is Georgetta Kelly. We're also doing some work on our e-performance tool right now and enhancing that framework. So we will be having some additional information to present to the board in the coming months on that topic as well.
Thank you very much. A couple more. In your primary goals, number 5, I like that. First of all, this was a good one, valuing individual and organizational achievements in maintaining a high performance culture. That's where I come into this one size doesn't fit all, and the ability to compensate individuals for work that's maybe above and beyond or innovative or all those things that you talk about maybe sometimes in the non-monetary rewards. I just think that a philosophy like this needs to make sure we don't lump 10,000 people into the same bucket and expect something different to come out the end that hasn't for the last 100 years. So I'd like you to build on number 5 to make sure that employees know that the work they do outside of their normal responsibilities sometimes falls into and other services as required or whatever are built into our compensation philosophy. So, and finally, and I'll maybe step on another board member's question on this, but I've never heard of R4, at least I don't remember. Can you tell me what that's all about?
Mr. Sard, President Sullivan, this is Martha Anderson again. R4 was when we reconstructed the HCM system with Oracle, release 4.
Okay, and you say that was a disaster?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and how long ago was that?
That was in January of 2018.
I remember that. Okay, and I guess the obvious question, where are we today on that whole thing?
We are at 99.97 on payroll accuracy. Faculty have tools available to them that they've not had previously that allows them to see not only their base contract pay, but also to be able to see that their pay for overload or adjuncts can see their pay. We've simplified the pay process by faculty being able to take the load rate times the load divided by the number of weeks, and they understand that they're going to get that exact same amount of money every week to be paid. So I would say we have moved that system 1,000% plus, and we find ourselves today better than we were before R4.
Well, that is excellent. Thank you and all those involved very much. I know that was not a fun time for anybody, but we can look back on it and say we learned something, I hope, and we look forward to having that work as well as you just defined it in the future. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Saar. And just for the record, I know that it's 5 o'clock and Mr. Hendricks had to leave. He did say that he had no questions or comments at this time. So with that, though, it's now Mrs. McGrath's turn. So Mrs. McGrath, I'm moving to you. And while you're unmuting, I want to note that Ms. Munoz did join us. So welcome, Ms. Munoz. So again, back to you, Mrs. McGrath.
Okay. Let's say they evaluated the compensation philosophies at 45 institutions. Could they let us know what those are, and why did they include four-year institutions in this evaluation?
Mr. Wilson, do you want to answer that again, please?
Yes. President Sullivan, Mrs. McGrath, the question, as I understand it, is why did we include universities within the analysis? We were trying to get a good understanding of the higher education space in terms of community colleges as well as universities. And so we also were focusing on our area within Arizona. So we included a blend of universities as well as community colleges to give us a full picture of higher education in terms of this space.
And could you review once again the colleges and that you did investigate? I think that was another part of Mrs. McGrath's question.
So President Sullivan, Mrs. McGrath, we can provide you the information related to the institutions we investigated and what we learned from each of those institutions, and we can provide that to the board subsequent to this meeting if it would be helpful.
Thank you. I also wonder how unhappy our people are based upon our turnover rate, and I'd like to have a good picture of what our turnover rate is, and I don't necessarily mean everything. For instance, we have people who retire, we have people who die, we have people who have to move away for one reason or another, but I would like a feel for what our turnover rate is, and I'd also like that compared to other institutions. I know that it's a lot of the institutions going to be huge because they've cut staff. I know NAU has cut staff by about 30%. So anyway, I'd like a feel for the turnover rate. And also, I'd like to know the number of employees that will be affected by this.
So President Sullivan, Mrs. McGrath, I'm understanding that there's a request for the turnover rate of Maricopa compared to other institutions. And I also understand that the question is related to how many employees will be affected by the compensation philosophy. The compensation philosophy will apply to all of our employees with an emphasis on our full-time employees, but also this work will also influence what we do in regards to our part-time employees.
We had a study done, I know it was 2 years ago approximately, and they reclassified everybody because we had disparities across the various campuses and put people in the same category that were doing the same job and compared the salaries to the private market. And there was a base salary and the one that you could reach up to. What happened with that?
So President Sullivan, Mrs. McGrath, go ahead.
I'm sorry. President Sullivan, Mrs. McGrath, this is Martha Anderson again. That is the classification and compensation structure that we implemented in January of 2018, where we're acknowledged that that was incomplete. Dr. Kelly spoke about that earlier, about that was incomplete, and there were missing job structures that we have found. That is one of the reasons that we're bringing in Mercer to do an audit to help us solidify that. We moved from 1,862 down to 263 jobs, which was too much. It was too large of a change. People were moved into where they believed they belonged. We have found that some were not classified properly. That is part of the reclassification process. And so that is the work that we are doing as well to correct and solidify that so that it does meet the needs of the organization, not only for today, but in the future as well.
And President Sullivan, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead.
And Mrs. McGrath, our turnover rate for 2019 was around 8%. So we definitely can get you that data in reference to that, and we can probably go back the last several years for you.
Yes. I'd like to know how much that study costs that we instituted in 2018, and I'd like to know what we're paying Mercer Company for this study.
Mrs. McGrath, President Sullivan, we can get that information for you.
Yeah, and I was saying to give it to the entire board, not just to me.
I'm sorry, I correct myself. Yes, we will provide it to the entire board.
Thank you.
Do you have any other comments or
I think that's
questions?
all my questions for now.
Thank you. Ms. Munoz, I know you joined us a little late. Do you have comments or observations at this time? Ms. Munoz, I see you're on. Do you have any comments or questions at this time?
Thank you. Yes, I did join a little bit kind of already through the presentation, but I was listening, and I do appreciate this presentation a lot because I am also an employee with institutional advancement at Mesa Community College. So I definitely think it is important to make sure that we are taking care of our employees because I think community colleges is a great thing for students, but we of course want to also make it a great thing for employees. So I appreciate this presentation quite a bit. And my only comment was, just trying to get ahead of things, especially if this was something that, I heard various comments that it has been worked on, been worked on for quite a bit now. So just making sure that if we are picking it up, to make sure that we are following it all the way through. And I think definitely trying to keep an eye on the levels of how older employees are getting paid less than newer employees. And I think that's also a huge thing with that, is also when minimum wage goes up. And I've seen this a lot with also prior employers of mine. When minimum wage goes up, sometimes employers forget to also increase their pay if it's more than minimum. And that's a good way to just kind of keep it steady and constant. So then we don't have to go and backtrack it like this was. But other than that, all my questions have been asked and answered.
So thank you very much, Ms. Munoz. We appreciate that. So back to me for a couple comments and questions. A couple things come to mind as we're contemplating, is this going to be a board policy or is this board approved? Certainly the process that we've been undergoing would lean to board approved, not board policy. And I appreciate both Dr. Thor and Mr. Sarr's comments to that end, given that board policy does require a little more, not a little more, it requires more in-depth appreciation and understanding, not just a one page, though that was helpful. And also it has a different process to it. So today would be a work session, then we would have another meeting around a first read after you accommodated some of the input from the board members and others. Perhaps you would have to bring it back to your work group so that you could agree to how those comments would be integrated into a document that then would come back to us in a first read, at which point we would have one more time to peruse and discuss. And then, of course, we would be a second readout before we could have approval. Now, there are two things tied to that. So so I'm curious about why you would want it to be board policy versus board approved. And what I'm perceiving is that there's a concern that if it's not board policy, that it has more wiggle room or something. I don't know that. I'm just projecting perhaps. So I think that is something that we should probably work through a little more definitively as to what would be your need or desire for a policy versus a board approved approach and philosophy. That's one thing. The other is to your goal of being good and prudent stewards. Certainly whatever we talk about and discuss, and as you begin to implement that, will have an impact on how we look at budgeting going forward. But I do agree with Dr. Thor that those are two separate items, the philosophy and ideas around compensation, i.e. how do we ensure equity across all employee spectrums? How do we ensure that there's comparative analysis to positions that would ensure people are adequately placed in when they're hired or when they move on? What is the overlay of evaluation and performance that could be part of that? How does that impact budgeting? And it's then translates to how does that impact budgeting when we are looking at COLA, so that each year we don't have to agonize, can we afford COLA this year or can we not? Certainly we don't want to go through what we had in the more recent spring, where we did not move ahead as a majority of the board to approve that. But part of what we also wanted to see was how could we build it into thinking. And then as we had the budget presentation, just gosh, was it a couple of weeks ago, and we're looking at projecting into future fiscal years right now, a freeze on positions and things, what would be the correlate? And so again, that goes back to philosophy and it's all its thoroughness versus just some throwing individual ideas and how they play out here. I also appreciate, so anyway, this issue of board approved or policy, I think, is still to be considered. But regardless, as we're looking at what does total compensation mean, how is that impacted about benefits? Did we have a survey of saying, are your benefits working for you? Are you satisfied with the comprehensive nature of them? Those are still questions I think that need to be answered. And though I appreciate the answers that were given this evening, there's a little deeper appreciation and understanding that I think we as board would want to have in order to say, absolutely, this is it, go forward and flesh more things out. I'm just sensing that. But I want to, so I should say and I want to say thank you, though, for the thoroughness and the work that has been done and achieved. And certainly we are behind and we want to catch up and we want to be able to implement something both to give not just the issue of fairness and equity, but also stability to staff, faculty, everyone's understanding of where does the district stand in this arena and what are we going to do to ensure that we live the values and the philosophy that we're trying to put into place. So the question is, do we have enough to move forward? Do we need more? You probably would get a split on us, though I don't know that from some boards. Some would say we're good, let's move. Others might say we need more information. So given all of this, where do you think we stand? And my last question would be, maybe I should have preceded that. The question would be, we've been functioning out of some sort of ad hoc year by year compensation philosophy. And yes, putting forward something new in a more solidified way and creates a different dynamic. But what are the more obvious differences between, okay, we've been functioning ad hoc year by year versus what stability does a compensation philosophy now give us. But you can't say what we've been doing wasn't a philosophy, might have been an inarticulate philosophy, but it was still something. So the variances in those two pieces, and then my follow-up, and how do you see us proceeding given the questions and discussion today? Yeah, I can end it there. Sorry. And I apologize for the raspy voice too, but whatever. So I don't know who has to tackle all of that. So.
Well, and President Sullivan, this is Georgetta Kelly. I'll start, and then my colleagues can chime in. We definitely recommend that we move this forward to approval, because I think something that you mentioned is stabilization, and that's one of the things that we're working on, trying to stabilize the compensation structure. And in order to do that, to have a framework that will solidify that for us as we move forward with all of the work that needs to continue, will help set the stage for that. So we do want to move forward, and we do understand the recommendation initially related to policy was related to, solidifying the structure. So whether it's a policy or we can do governing board adoption and move it forward with less time, that's probably the better approach for us to move down that path. But we are ready to move this forward. We recommend moving it forward because I think across the organization, from an employee population standpoint, this will restore some sense of hope, trust, and transparency across our institution. And then the real work will continue, and we will bring forth additional recommendations for implementation of actionable items associated with the philosophy. So we do recommend that. And so, Frank, if you want to respond to some of the other items that President Sullivan mentioned.
Okay, can you put those on hold for a minute? Because I made an egregious mistake, and that is I forgot to ask Dr. Narini for his comments before I went off on mine. So I apologize. So Dr. Narini, your turn, and then we'll wait for more information from the staff. So please go ahead. I apologize.
No comment. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. No, I just want to thank and for all the work that went into this. I mean, you could have had a 30-page report, and we would have still had lots and lots of questions about this. So I appreciate all the work it took to get this to one page. And I guess when I was reading it and reviewing it, I was focused more on the idea of philosophy. I know there's a lot of details, and I know that the implementation is going to be the where the rubber hits the road and all those kind of things. So I think it's a great start. I know that getting us back on track is going to be a multi-step process, and this is a great start to doing that. It's only the first step, I think. And I really appreciate the idea where you're including the professional growth and helping our develop our own leadership and developing our own resources within our staff and faculty. So I guess, I mean, and I'm trying to keep the two separate. I know that there's a philosophy, and the philosophy is good. That's what that's going to be our framework, and then maybe it's the policies that we want to go through about how do we achieve these goals that we've set through the philosophy. Because I guess one of my questions was, so we adopt this and this looks well and good. How do we make sure that it's enforced? How do we make sure that we are getting what we're asking for, and how does that all play out? But again, I think it's going to go a long way. Again, stability and predictability for the staff is so important, especially in these times. Like the first slide said, this is a time that we're going to have to make some difficult decisions because it is a difficult time. And so the transparency that this will bring, the philosophy, so at least we have something to hang our hat on when we do start implementing them, will be critical. And I agree with Mr. Sarr about the policies and the benefits, the comprehensive benefit packages. And I really appreciate Dr. Thor's questions because she asked a lot of the questions that I didn't even consider. So thank you so much for all of that. But again, I think this is a great first step. Like the last slide said, the past is the past. So let's get to work and make these things a reality for our staff. So no questions.
Again, I apologize, Dr. Marini, but thank you for your comments. So moving back to you, Ms. Kelly, you were about to ask one of your team members for comment.
Yes, President Sullivan, and thank you for the comments. Frank, in reference to the other comments from President Sullivan.
Sure, thank you. President Sullivan, we are deeply committed not just to this compensation philosophy, but implementing it. We know that a compensation philosophy without an implementation plan is worthless to us, right? If we're not going to do what we've said we're going to do. So we are firmly committed, not just for the next year, but we're looking ahead multi-year and really getting us beyond the space where we've been making decisions annually whether or not we're going to make adjustments to employee salaries, rather than planning strategically, looking multi-year, how do we build this into our budget structures so that we can appropriately use compensation as a tool to grow our employees, to attract, retain, engage. So really looking strategically and using this compensation philosophy as a foundation for that work. In terms of ensuring that the work continues, right? So we have a compensation philosophy now. We've got Mercer that's doing work now between now and mid-March. But how do we make sure it survives and continues on? And our compensation advisory committee is that body which keeps things alive, keeps us moving. And so that group has already been doing work, preparing things to ultimately come forward to the board for consideration in terms of adaptations, modifications. And so in the years ahead, the compensation advisory committee will play a role very similar to the highly effective role of our employee benefits advisory committee, which has helped us with our benefits over the years. So we see that we've built a structure that is designed to bring forward recommendations and then vet those recommendations throughout the organization in terms of improvements to make in terms of our pay practices and our policies. Including the employee voice in shaping this, we believe is critical, and it's part of our processes because that's how we build buy-in, and we're making sure we're addressing the needs as seen through the lenses of the employees as well as the lenses of the institution. In regards to benefits and making sure we have employee feedback related to benefits, we do survey our employees in regards to benefits, and we did a survey in this past spring related to our benefits programs. They did weigh in regards to particular vendors that were working well for them, particular vendors that were not working well for them, and all of that has fed forward into the thinking of EBAC in terms of looking to the future. What benefits programs are we going to offer? Which vendors are we going to bring on board? So we do listen to that feedback, and it does inform the work that the Employee Benefits Advisory Committee does as it looks to continue to enhance employee benefits as well.
Okay, thank you. When I mentioned the benefits, I wasn't talking about the operational piece of that. I was thinking of it more as, going back to your Q&A when you were asking people if they were satisfied with the compensation or pay structure, were people thinking that benefits were part of that when they answered that question? So I was trying to think of that in terms of a 40,000 foot level framework around benefits as opposed to the operational 20,000 foot level or 10 or 5, whatever it was. So thank you. And I appreciate your comment about tying this into the strategic planning. Again, each time it seems that we've had a work session in the recent past, some discussion, it always circles back to what are the strategic goals, for example, of the system or the organization. And in that regard, a compensation philosophy could very much be part of how a strategic goal of the district to ensure fair and equitable or transparent recognition of employees happens, if that becomes a key strategic goal, obviously better worded than what I just said. And then one of the elements of that becomes a statement of a compensation philosophy and its integration into goals and practices of the system. And I guess that's part of the thing that I don't want to lose. And I do tend to agree that this isn't real board policy yet, where the operations may become more the policy issues, elements of that anyway, to shape the policy, the actions, not operations itself. So I appreciate our dialogue. I'm eager for us to move forward on this and have it discussed for approval, or certainly not. That's always not a possibility. And I'm just trying to weigh into, after I read the one page beyond slide 10, if there's just a little more tweaking that might need to happen. Again, the issue of predictability around COLA and the issues around seeking equity in some of the regards that we've talked about today, so we don't lose those. It's just a thought before we actually put a stamp of approval on it. But with that, if it merits further discussion, I'm sure that the board will weigh in one way or another. So with that, I'm going to ask one more time, board members, do you have any other comment or question at this point, recognizing that for now it's still on the agenda for October 27th? I mean, this is a big thing, and I want to ensure that all board members are well prepared and thoughtful to give this a vote that can move us forward. So with that, board members, any other comment or questions? I'll give unmute moments here.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
This is Mrs. Nguyen.
Yes.
I appreciate the dialogue that we had today, and I understand the importance of having this philosophy. I think the board did a great job, though, of raising some critical points and some concerns. And I'd like to see, number one, I'd like to have an ability to ask further questions after this, because we are seeing this, and sometimes I think of things after the fact that I think are important, and to have those answers. I also believe that there's some key components that that Mrs. McGrath asked for, and Dr. Thor, and Mr. Sarr brought up some good points. I believe that we don't have everything we need to move forward. Not that we won't, but that there's some critical information that's missing that would give me a comfort level to do so. And I'd like to be able to try to work on that between now and the time that we're supposed to vote on it. And then maybe I would be there. But I would say as of right now, I wouldn't be in favor of this, but I'm willing to have discussions. Not that I'm not in favor of a philosophy. We obviously need a philosophy, but there's key information that I like to make decisions on. Not so much emotions and as it is hard numbers. There's some key facts I'd like to know the bottom line on, or some numbers before I could move forward. So that's
okay.
Just input. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Sarr, Mr. Narini, Dr. Thor, Mrs. McGrath, any other comments? Okay, no one's unmuting, so
Well, Ms. Sullivan,
yes, go ahead.
I'm comfortable with moving this forward at the next meeting, with the understanding that this is a framework that's being designed to address the very large problems that we know exist in the system. So, I mean, this is not the be all and end all to our problems around compensation and salary progression and career mobility for our employees. It's just the go ahead to get working on these things and keep us informed.
Thank you. All right, anyone else for the good of the order?
Mrs. President Sullivan, this is Stephen.
Yes, Dr. Gonzalez.
If I may, I would say that what we're looking for here is approval of a framework and guiding principles for us to then take this into an operational aspect, to then develop a plan that implements this philosophy. At each step along that way, we're more than happy to come back to the board, through a work session or governing board, probably better through a work session, to provide you updates on how we plan to achieve the items within this philosophy. As far as the one page that's been shared, some of you have commented that perhaps you'd like to see more. If you could articulate what it is that you'd like to see, that would be helpful, because this document does represent the collective work and collaborative work of all of the leadership groups and the employee groups in our district. It's ready for your review. So if there's anything else that needs to be changed, we're here today asking you, what else would you like to see? And perhaps based on some of the questions that have been asked today, we may be able to do some minor tweaking, but I'm not suspecting that it would be the level unless you're able to clearly articulate it as a body or as individual board members of what more you'd like to see.
Got it. So with that, I think there might be a way to move forward, and that would be, there were some key things that were asked that may contribute to some tweaking if you brought it to your group. And for example, and this is what I would suggest then, that if board members have any key questions or elements that they just want to repeat, that they send them in an email to you, Dr. Gonzalez, with a copy to Ms. Kelly, and we can all be copied on that as board members, the inquiry or the statement. What we cannot do is reply all, but if there's an opportunity for your group to reply all, I mean, not the board members, but your staff, to any particular inquiry, that happens, so that by next week, certainly we have agenda review. Perhaps and this obviously being part of agenda review, if it's on for approval on the 27th, we could kind of go through whatever some of those tweaks are to ensure that what we would see for the 27th would be complete, and because for an up or down vote on that, recognizing that we will not make this a board policy, but instead put the stamp of board approved on it as a compensation philosophy, i.e. framework for shaping other items going forward and ensuring it becomes part of the conversation for any strategic thinking or discussions moving forward. So if that works, everyone, I would say that people would have to get their comments and questions to you by tomorrow, end of day tomorrow. Would that work? And then again, if there's any tweaking, it would appear in the agenda review anyway, at which point we could have a shorter discussion based on that item and then move it into the agenda for the 27th. Does that work for you, Dr. Gonzalez?
That works for me, yes. And I'm sure it would work for Dr. Kelly as well, to be the recipients of the questions or comments that you have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Recognizing that there wouldn't be major tweaking or major rewrites, but there are some key pieces of information that may enhance someone's perspective. But if there's something more generic that fits within the framing, then perhaps some items could be tweaked. And there may not be anything. I mean, I'm not presuming there will be, just commenting. Maybe you could review some of the dialogue that we had this evening to pull some things out. So I guess I'm looking to you, Dr. Gonzalez, because of the team, and you will discuss with your team. And as far as board members are concerned, we would have by end of day tomorrow, work day tomorrow, to have sent you any comments or information we needed outside of what was discussed today or reinforcing an item that was discussed today.
Okay.
So unless there's any dissent to that suggestion, just again, last minute comment, quick from anyone? There being none that I can tell, I want to thank you again for the dedication and hard work, Ms. Kelly and Ms. Anderson, Mr. Wilson, and all of the others that are involved in this, staff and all the representative groups. And thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, for continuing to push this forward. It is, it's daylight on the issue, so thank you for that. We certainly appreciate the hard work and the contribution to this discussion. So thank you. So with that, then I'm going to adjourn the meeting. I apologize for being 5 minutes late, but we're adjourning at 5:35 and we will reconvene next Tuesday for agenda review and other activities. So thank you, everyone. Good night.